Welcome back to the Six Figure Cleaner podcast. I have an awesome guest with you today, Mr. Edwin Eaton. Man, thank you so much for being on the podcast with us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's awesome to be a part of the show.
So I'm going to go rogue here for just a second. I've heard you say this on other podcasts. You've been on several industry podcasts, but we're just talking about it. I got to know how you came up with the name for your company and your logo and stuff because it's so slick, man. And I actually, this is full disclosure here too, Edwin. The other day, you were on something. It might have been off your Instagram. You may have been doing a podcast, so that local podcast or something. But like I saw like the vest you were wearing and your logo and like screenshot it and sent it to my wife. I was like, I need a vest. Edwin's got it. But yeah, man, tell us how you got up with your business day you guys were getting started.
Yeah, well, when you start a business, I mean, at least to me, the hardest part was to come up with a name, right? What's going to be catchy, what's going to stick with, potential clients and things like that. And at the time, a little over 10 years ago, the hot items were the iPhones, the iPads, all that kind of stuff. And that just kind of stuck. And you saw those commercials with the new iPhones coming out. And so I said, can we do something? So, on the logo, it's got the little eye, just like the iPhone. And I said, let's just do iPro. And, we've got the house here because we used to do residential cleaning. We don't do that anymore. We just focus strictly on the commercial side of things, but we kept it because it's a talking point and the logo's been out there and people see it and know what it is. But yeah, it just came from, the Apple devices.
I love it, dude. Taking the opportunity at a cultural moment. Everything's I this, I that, and going iPro. I love that. I remember hearing that story and I was like, oh my gosh, that was brilliant, man. That is so smart. All right, so let's dive into some of the specifics of your business, man. Obviously, you got a great brand, and people should check you out on this other podcast. We were mentioning before we hit record. You've been on Cleaning and Cocktails podcast with Ricky Regalado. You've been on the Profitable Cleaner podcast with those fellas that I like so much. And so they should check out. They hear about your story. We're going to get some of the numbers and how you guys do business, how you got started out. So diving in, how many years you've been in business? What kind of annual revenue are you doing now? And then like employee count, what's the size of your company look like from your team members?
Yeah. So this year was our 10-year business anniversary. And actually that was July. So to be exact, 10 years and 3 months, we've been in business under iPro. Annual revenue, I mean, it's continued to grow every year, which is great. Even, with the pandemic hitting, it just seems like if you weren't prepared when the pandemic hit, getting your disinfects, the electrostatic sprayers and things like that, you weren't going to make it over that hump. And so I saw a lot of cleaning businesses go out of business, fail, or the revenue just got cut drastically. For us, it was kind of the tipping point for us, and we started to take off at that point just based on the clients that we had. Numbers for annual revenue right now, we're in the high 7 figures. My hope is for next year to top the 8-figure range. It's been kind of just dangling there for me. So we're working hard to get to that point. Employee count, we're a little over 150 employees. We've got 3 offices. We're here in the Pacific Northwest. And so we cover Washington, Oregon, and Idaho. And so we've got our employees kind of all spread out. Our specialty services crew, for the most part, some of our main people kind of run from our main office. But I'm not in a big metro area. I'm in a small rural area. So my city itself, where, my office is here, we're about 50,000 people, and that's probably being generous. And so, windshield time for us to get to some places is 3 hours, that we've got to drive. And so, I've said on some of the other podcasts, we have a lot of new vehicles that we bought in 2020 or 2021. And, this is the 6-figure podcast. Well, all those vehicles are over 6 figures for miles. I mean, we're over 100,000 easily in miles in these vehicles.
Man, that is wild. So, all right. So you mentioned the house on your logo. And when you guys got started, you were doing some residential cleaning. And it doesn't sound like going to residential now, which I think is a pretty common story that we hear people starting on that side and then totally moving out of it. So when you started, Edwin, what was it the types of clients you were looking for then? And then what types of clients are you looking for now as your ideal client type?
Sure. I think anybody that's new in the business is going to tell you they'll take anything that comes their way. And really that's what it was. And so it was residential, it was commercial. I mean, cleaning is cleaning. So we're going to take what we can get. And as we got out again with the home on our logo, people saw that, and then people started calling friends and family, do you clean houses? Let's do this, let's do that. We were doing that. But at the time it was just me and my wife. And so we were cleaning homes, and then we were starting to do new construction, cleaning those homes. And it was just the two of us, and we didn't have time to sell anywhere else. And so that kind of took up a lot of our time. And I said, let's kind of focus away from that, because I think the commercial side might be a little bit better. And so we kind of dipped into that a little bit and got a couple of accounts, a little insurance agency and a dental office. And I thought, okay, small offices. Yeah. And it was like, the money there is almost the same as the residential piece. And it's not as time consuming per se, and I get an opportunity to rest and continue to sell a little bit. So then we started to focus towards that. As we started to grow, again, I'm in a rural area, so there's not a lot. I mean, in my city, there's no real high-rise buildings to go after. And so it's route janitorial, and I'm pretty sure most people are familiar with that. So it's an hour here, it's an hour there, 2 hours here. And if you wanted something bigger, you had to go out of town. And so we did what we could in town. And at a certain point, there's only so many businesses you can get that you got to expand, and you got to look at other areas. And 30 minutes to an hour from where I'm at, there's a ton of industrial warehouses. And so then we started to get into the industrial warehouses. And then, once you get a few of those things, in your references, then you can start looking at other things, and things just started to spiral. And then, we go an hour away, then it's 2 hours away. Then a client says, well, I got something down in Boise, Idaho. All right, well, we're going to go 6 hours away. Well, we're in Portland, Oregon too. Okay, we're going to go the other direction, 6 hours. And, just kind of spiral out and just start to expand. And as we started expanding, we started adding more people. And as you're expanding, it becomes a headache. And, if you're not structured right and having the right people on board. And so, one thing my wife always told me was, you just got to slow down. We're growing at a fast pace, but we got to catch up a little bit. And so we started to slow down a little bit to catch up, get our policies and procedures in place, structure it the right way, and then put our foot on the gas pedal and continue to grow at that point.
Man, it's so interesting to hear you say that, because I think like for a lot of us, I think the interesting thing I find, Edwin, is that for a lot of the people I end up talking to and the people I connect with in the industry, most of the ones I'm connecting with they tend to be good on the sales part, right? I'm good at growing the thing, but then we got to figure out the operations and systems stuff. Like we got to catch up with the growth. And that's what it's been the same for us as far as in figuring out, like, we can go sell big up clients really easy. But the hard part of scaling these things is to be like, all right, building the operational systems to fulfill the work orders that you're out there selling, So, but it sounds like a lot of your expansion, you mentioned you're in 3 states, was driven by happy client right here. Wants me to take on another location. You're like, we can do it.
Yep. I'm kind of one of those that I like to say yes, especially when there's an opportunity. And that's another thing I need to stop kind of doing, is not saying yes to everything. But for me, it was just like wildfire. I mean, it was just growth at that time. And I looked at my wife and I told her, I said, this is an opportunity. Let's get out of this 9 to 5 that, we're used to doing, and let's grow this thing. And this is the only way to do it. And she agreed. And so we just continued to go, and she takes care of the back end of things. So all the numbers, all that kind of stuff, because she came from the banking industry. And so she handles that, and she just tells me, just focus on the operations and the sales, and let's do this.
All right. So when you're looking for clients today, and you're growing your company again, when you're on the cusp of 8 figures, which is ridiculous. That's such a monumental goal, especially in our industry, where nobody, there's companies that get to that size, but you're less than 1% success rate in what we're doing. What types of companies do you look for now in growth? So if you were going to say, this is the cream of the crop, ideal client I'm prospecting going after, what does it look like in terms of revenue per month from that client? How many employees you put in there? What type of industry may they be in? What is the target client these days?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that. So I brought on a couple of sales guys, brand new. They're straight out of college, and I like that because I can teach them the way and mold them the way that I want. And that's something I kind of went over with them. It's I said in the beginning it was the 1 time a week accounts. They want the Taj Mahal service, but they're willing to pay for the convenience store hot dog, kind of thing. And it's those are the ones, I mean, not all of them, but most of them are going to be the ones that are going to complain a lot because you're cleaning messes up for a whole week. Whereas every single day, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 7 days a week, it's consistent cleaning. There's going to be complaints. There's human error, right? Because it's humans that are doing this. So there's going to be error here and there, but not as frequent as these 1 time a week. And so that's what I put the focus on with our crew. Now, with where we're at, again, it's rural America out here. We have a lot of rivers. We have dams. And where there's dams, that means there's cheap power. And so cheap power means all the tech companies are coming into these areas. And so all the orchards and agriculture that's what drove this area is agriculture. Agriculture is almost long gone. And now it's the tech companies coming in with the data center. And so we had an opportunity about 7 years ago. It's a crazy story how it happened. And so I have a dasher board at the local ice arena here in town. And there was a youth hockey tournament. And this guy who's my contact now, he brought his son down for a hockey tournament. Well, his son got body checked into the boards, right into my reader board, into my dasher board. It just so happened that his dad was looking for a janitorial company. And he saw that sign, saw the logo, saw the lime green standing out on the black, saw the number. I guess he took a picture of it, looked up the website, called me that following Monday, and he was down in the Oregon area. And we set up a meeting, went down there, ended up being for a data center. I knew nothing about data centers, but again, I'll say yes, right? I'll learn it, whatever I need. Yeah, you'll just figure it out. So we got in there and he gave me an opportunity. And he says, if you can make this work, there's 45 other data centers here. And these are massive 700,000 plus square foot buildings, right? So we took on the first one. And within the first couple months, he said, okay, are you ready for 2 more? I'm like, what? Wait, okay, yeah, let's do it. So then it was 2 more. And then it spiraled into us taking over all this cluster of 45 data centers. And then word spread because, again, it's rural America, so it's hard to find people, but we have structures in place now that we slowed down in the beginning and figured out our structure. So we were prepared at this point. Then we had other companies that were opening up data centers and saying, hey, we know that you guys take care of these. Can you take care of this? And so what we've learned is, we found a niche. And that's the biggest thing is when you're growing, you're going to find out what accounts are making you money, what accounts are the good accounts. What I look at as a good account is, I'm all about communication. And in our industry, if a client isn't communicating with you, it's sometimes a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. But we like to keep that communication open. So we like the clients that are communicating back and forth with us. We're having those conversations. We're building those relationships because that one relationship that I built for one data center equated to 45 data centers, which helped me pop into other data centers in other areas from just that one relationship. So, relationships are huge, but, that's kind of our niche now are the data centers in this area and basically through states. And so that's what we put our focus on. And I mean, you're talking, anywhere from 10 to 20 full-time workers in these data centers. And so it's lower overhead because you're not running around and, it's not route janitorial going from one site to another site. It's more controlled because you're not having multiple managers. It can be managed by less, a smaller management team. And so it's keeping those costs down for us as well.
Man, that is amazing. Sorry, it's just some big places.
Oh, they're gigantic. Yeah. I mean, if you drive by and you see all the, the apple trees and everything, you just think it's a fruit warehouse, but no, it's not. You get in closer and they're, you got the barbed wire fences and security shacks and everything, all around there. But yeah, I mean, it's booming and I know that it's booming all across the US as well now.
So it just kind of happened for you.
It did. Yeah.
Yeah. And I say it happened for you too, not to take any, it ain't like you just got lucky, like you responsibility, opportunity, you're prepared for it. But it is awesome that you're able to navigate and grow a business the size that you got growing out of a city that's not very big. But you you said yes to an opportunity and it led to a lot of opportunity, but you capitalized on it. I think that's an amazing story. And
I do look at it as being lucky too, but I always say it's the harder you work, the luckier you get, right? So we were working hard, we got something in place and we had an opportunity. It was a lucky opportunity. And then we took advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the phrase luck favors the bold, it's like, cause you took it too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you do this? It's like, we've never done it.
Yeah, we'll learn it. Yeah.
Where's your biggest client at that point? Did you have any building remotely close to the size of these buildings at that point? Because I think you said you're like 3 or 4 years in this data center opportunity.
Nothing close to the size. I think at that point, our largest building was about 30,000 square feet.
How stressed out were you taking on this opportunity? It had to be a
Oh,
mixture
I
of
still have the gray hair is still coming in, but yeah, I mean, not knowing exactly what to do, and throwing acronyms at me that I had no clue what those meant, and certifications you had to get, and policies and procedures that had to be followed, and making sure again you have the right people so that they're following these procedures. And yeah, it was stressful. It's a lot of sleepless nights trying to get it going. But the thing is, once you figure it out the first time, you know what to do the next time, and you know what not to do to make sure it's done the right way that next time and moving forward.
There had to be a piece for you too, Edwin, I would imagine. Like when you're gaining that knowledge, going through like having to figure that out, which again, heightened level of security and the protocol, and then the insurance agent's office. You might have been cleaning it in year one. Gaining that knowledge, I would imagine, helped you also recognize that you were separating yourself from the company that you were, and therefore most of your competitors. Because most people aren't willing to figure all that stuff out.
Right. Yeah, and there were other companies. They had national companies that were taking care of that. And obviously, the national companies, they've got the people in place and all the certifications and everything to do that. And so for somebody like me, just from a small town trying to come in and figure this out, but to be able, with me, it's, I did sales and I did customer service growing up. Right. And so that part of it to me felt comfortable, and being able to talk to them and gain that relationship. But the other stuff was more difficult because I had to learn it. And, there's different tools and equipment you have to use this too. So, your standard backpack vacuum isn't going to work. You got to have something a little bit different so that there's no electrostatic, and all this kind of stuff. And so, but that's also where you have the relationships with your suppliers and your vendors and things like that, that you rely on them to get the information and the knowledge that you're going to need. And they're going to help you out as well.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. Though you are able to be in this niche and then to be able to, there's not 1,000 clinic companies that I recommend. There's a handful we're thinking of, and if they're like, they haven't done a national thing, if you want to work with somebody that's a little closer to home, then you guys need to call iPro. How that led to so much for you. I think you say like you got 45 or 50 of these things at this point, these data centers like this.
Yeah, that's like in one cluster. So, which is crazy. Yeah, I think total we have a little over 50 data centers that we handle. So, yeah.
Man, that's amazing. So, all right. So, outside of that, is that most of your client makeup these data centers, or you still do some stuff with some different types of industry?
We still deal with different types of industries. Like I said, the industrial with the warehouses and things that we have not too far from here. And so, that's a lot of stuff that we take care of. Here where I'm at in Wenatchee, again, no high rises. So we still have our we have a lot of clients that we had from 10 years ago. Right. And so we have that. And then we spiraled into other areas. And some of them are even metro areas. So even Seattle, I've snuck into Seattle, and I could do, $500,000 to $2 million. Competition wouldn't even know. Right. And so I can sneak into these metro areas and get a little piece of the pie and, continue to do what I'm doing. The other thing too is what I call hybrid is you can only grow so fast with the people that you have. And so, self-performing. But then if I'm trying to reach 6 hours away and all of a sudden they sign the contract and I have nobody, crap, what do I do? I don't want to send my employees and put them in a hotel for a month or a couple of weeks until I find a new employee. So I call it the hybrid method, and we find subcontractors. Yeah. And so we find reputable subcontractors that we can use, and subcontractors will help grow the business for you as well. As long as you treat them well, you pay them on time, they're going to take care of anything you need taken care of. And so we have a handful of those that we've helped. Some of them are mom and pop, some of them were medium-sized companies, but we've helped them grow as well.
Oh, that's all right. So this brings up a really good question, because we're talking about, the next question on my list is the ideal team member or your ideal employee, like what they look like. So starting out, what they look like, and then now, what they look like. I imagine if you're like me, based on how you started, and when you're starting out, you're like, man, if they could clean and they could clean an insurance office, I'd put them in one. But what does it look like? Who were you looking for early on? Were they part-time? Were they full-time? And now, like, who are you looking for to help expand your company?
Yeah, in the beginning, I didn't know what I was looking for. Put an ad out and see who shows up for an interview. And I think a lot of people can attest to this. You set up 10 interviews and maybe 2 or 3 of them will show up. Right. And so it's like, okay, I'm taking those 2 or I'm taking those 3. And in the beginning, okay, that worked. Some of them worked out. Some of them didn't. I mean, I still have one that's been with me since year one, that I found on a Craigslist. But now we don't, now it's like, okay, we're starting to build company culture. And so we want, there's a certain vibe that we have, and we want to make sure that everybody meshes together because, you get that one bad apple. And, I read this thing about your quiet employees who are your really good ones, and they really don't chime in and say anything. You get that one bad apple, and those good employees are going to leave, just because of that one person. And so we've tried to find the right people that, are team players that can communicate well. And they want to learn and they want to work. And those are really the people that we look for.
So focus on core values. The minute you start to interview people, as soon as you start to talk to them, right, do they fit with our culture or not?
Yes. Yeah. And it used to just be one interview, but now we try to do multiple interviews just so that everybody feels comfortable bringing the person on.
Yeah. And it's mostly full time for you guys as far as you're hiring these days?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, in the beginning, obviously a lot of part-time, but now I'd say it's probably 95% full-time that we have.
Yeah. I tell people, man, it's funny, like they're starting out or their companies are still, they're wherever, they're doing less than 500,000. The owners kind of doing a little bit of everything and trying to figure it out. I'm like, hey, you're just right now, this is what you're supposed to be doing. You're just duct taping your business together. Like it's your mind, and you kind of go that way until you can build some systems. I talk to a lot of people who are like, they want the perfect systems. I'm like, you don't have any clients. Like, what's the matter? Like, you got to get going with being a little bit, want to make some mistakes and stick some stuff together, knowing that that's not going to be like the long-term fix for it. So question for you on that too, when it comes to, looking into these other cities, when you're trying to expand, or let's say you pick up a new client or an existing client location, what are you looking for? And how are you finding some of these subcontractors that are out there? Like, how are you verifying the same thing? Hey, is this going to be a good fit for us? What kind of process is that like for you guys?
Yeah. Again, in the beginning, it was like a Craigslist ad kind of thing in the beginning, and you kind of find out that way. But now, internet is doing a lot of research on these companies. Everybody's got a website. I always tend to go away from the new cleaning companies that, it's their cleaning company at gmail.com. Yeah. Okay. No, let's if you look professional, then, I'll give you a shot to work with you. But we look at that, I'll go down and meet with them in person. And, I'll take a look at some of the stuff that they're doing. If they have an office, I'll go down and take a look at their office. What are their capabilities? Can they do floor work? Can they do window cleaning? What kind of equipment do they have? Because that'll tell me, okay, for this big account, if I've got a strip and wax job or a carpet cleaning or a high-rise window cleaning, okay, I know these guys are legit. They've got the right equipment. They can handle this for me. And so I'll go and I'll meet the owner of the company, or I'll meet the managers of the company. And I want to make sure I'm comfortable and they're not just giving me a load of BS. I want to verify this so I know.
Man, I was telling we had our leadership team meeting yesterday, Edwin, and I was telling our staff, I'm like, and they were scared. But I was like, we got our business model is done similar to what you guys have done as far as expansion. So we're in cities 2 hours away from here because the client we serve here is like, we got spaces in Augusta, Georgia. Will you guys go to Augusta? We're like, absolutely. But same thing, like trying to hire, train, all that stuff with employees for 2 hours away. It's like, this stuff sucks, So it's like some of our growth needs to be about partnering up. Well, I'm like, man, if I could find me 15 years ago, I would all day long give big business. That version of like that would, and me 15 years ago would have all day long taken it, see it as successful, like just being a part of something a little bigger. So is that something you're doing personally, reaching out to these companies? Somebody on staff that's reaching out? Like, how does that process work? And I'd love to know, like, what's the first reach out? Are you emailing and saying, hey, would love to connect, or what?
Yeah, either myself or my GM. And we have in our office, our support team too. We'll kind of share what the needs are when we'll brainstorm with the management staff. Really, what are we looking for? Again, it goes back to, do we just need cleaning? Do we need cleaning and floor care? Because I don't want to hire multiple people. I'd rather do it as a combination, somebody that can handle multiple jobs all in one. And so we'll start it there, identify what the needs are, and then we'll either send an email or we'll make a phone call, just a discovery call, and ask them about their business. How long have they been in business? What types of accounts do they clean, and services that they offer. And then from there, then I'll set up a call with myself or my GM. And if it's close enough that we can go down there and visit them, we'll go down there and visit them. And again, just so that we feel comfortable with who we're bringing on. Because again, just like the employees, you want to keep a good vibe going, and you want to make sure that these subcontractors kind of following, I guess, the culture that you have, even though it's their own business, but you want to have that open line of relationship with them so that, when you ask them to do something, they'll get it done for you and you can trust that it's going to get done.
Love that. See, this is why I do this podcast. People think I'm doing it for other people. Well, I'm just doing it for me, man. It's free consulting. Hey, real quick on this one too. Just so people know, is a business of your size, what kind of softwares are you guys using? From operations to accounting, whatever. What's some of the top choices you guys use for running your business and from the software?
Yeah, and that's something that we're still kind of getting into. I mean, obviously, QuickBooks and all that, that's what they specialize in, right? So that's what we use for that. We use Chronotech for our clock in, clock outs, and geofencing and all that. That's what they specialize in. So they do that. And then we actually use Clean Guru is what we use for our software system for basically everything else that's within our organization. We've tried quite a few. There's the all for one kind of thing, and a lot of the software systems give you stuff that you need and stuff that you really don't need. And so we were talking before this show, I'm trying to just customize a software system just for our company itself, just with the stuff that we use to make it easy. So like I said, I've got some new salespeople. They can go in, press a button. You want to create a new bid, and it walks them through the whole process, and everything's automatically automated in there for them. You just plug in a few things and you're good to go. Well, I'm not reinventing anything. I'm just making it a little bit simpler for the crew to use. And like I said too, I do a consulting side, and I've got some of my clients asking, how do you bid on things? How do you do this? And so we've showed them the system, and they're like, well, I want to use this system. It's like, well, I'm creating it for my business. It's just for my business, but I'll pay you to use it. And so I thought, okay, let's see. So I actually have a couple of other businesses out there across the US that are beta testing it for me right now to see if it works for their businesses. So we're kind of taking the best of everything and trying to customize it to our own. But right now, what we're using, it's gotten me where we're at now. So I can't really complain about anything that we've been using.
Yeah, and that's interesting too. So we're using these different things. There's different seasons of business where it's like, hey, this tool that really worked, like this was awesome for us at this level. And we hit this level where it's like, I'm gonna start feeling like maybe we need to switch it up a little bit. I think it's pretty natural too, but I think it's awesome. And I can't let my staff hear this part of it because I got a couple of them that really want to do software. And I'm like, no.
I don't know why I decided to try it, because it's a whole nother world. But yeah.
Well, we use Swept as like our, for logging in, logging out. A lot of our stuff is with Swept, and that's their origination story is we were creating software to make our business run better, and eventually we're like, let's just keep creating the software and let's get rid of the business. I think that's a smart move for those that are smart. See, I didn't sign up for smart, man. I was like, hey, I can clean. I could take out the trash. And like that was my level. I feel like I could do that.
Right.
You software guys are beyond me. Hey, all right. So I got to ask you this question. You're a sharp dude. You're starting a software, create some software. You got a fast growing clean company. I see the Inc. 5000 plaque behind you, which is awesome too.
Oh yeah.
What you guys have done. How in the heck did you guys get into the commercial cleaning, or residential, I guess too? But how did y'all start with cleaning? What made you choose that? Like, what was the backdrop of that experience? Like, what were you guys doing before you got into this?
I don't think anybody really chooses to be in this industry, right? Cleaning toilets, taking out trash.
Maybe do this thing. That's all.
Wow. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I heard your story. Yeah. No, I was going to college over in Seattle, UW. We are the Huskies, but we're also known as the Dogs, just like your dogs, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, going to college there, my college roommate's uncle actually owned a janitorial business, and where we were at, where our apartment was at, he had some cleaners that quit or whatever. And he asked my roommate, hey, can you guys clean a couple banks for me, until I can find some new cleaners. And so my roommate came to me and he said, let's do it, man. My uncle's going to pay us for beer money. I'm like, all right, I can't say no. Let's go do it. What do we got to do? Take some trash out, do this and that, vacuum. Wasn't the best cleaner at all, but we held down the fort for him for a couple weeks until he found some new cleaners. And, he told me, he's like, when you're done with college, I want you to come work for me. You're going to come work for me. And I said, no, I'm in the hospitality industry. I'm working in the hotels. That's my career path. That's where I'm going. And lo and behold, this was in Seattle. My parents had some health issues. I'm an only child, so I had to move back here to Wenatchee. not much for hotels in this town to make the kind of money I was making. So my college roommate's uncle reached out to me and said, "Are you ready? Let's expand this thing to where you're at." And all right, I'm up for a challenge. Let's do it. He goes, "But here's the caveat. I can only afford to pay you for 1 month. And if you can make your salary back in a month, then let's roll with this. But if you can't, no harm, no foul. We tried it, right?" I said, all right. So that was a challenge. And so that first month, I actually made my salary back and then some. He said, "All right, let's roll and let's continue to grow this thing." And we did. And then we got to a certain point. I wanted to expand a little bit further. He didn't want to, so we kind of butted heads, and the writing was on the wall, and we mutually parted. And when I started iPro and just took off running on my own. But yeah, I don't think anybody just gets into this because it's definitely not a sexy or a glamorous job at all. But as you start to grow it, you start to see there's different components to this industry that once you're not cleaning anymore, it's like, okay, you're actually running a business and there's things to do. There's payroll. You got to pay these people. You got to pay taxes. You got to, and to me, that just excites me because there's something new in this industry all the time. And there's knowledge to be made out there just to continue to grow yourself and grow your company.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And too, like you're saying that too, you mentioned this before, but the relationships, like when you find the right clients, I think we're all different there, right? But you find a client and matches up. You mentioned something that we subscribe to as well. I'm like, I look for clients that want to communicate. Like, like you're from, y'all need to know our names. So if you have an issue, you're calling a person and not a 1-800
right.
whoever. So like we're like, and if the client doesn't want that, we just realize like that's great. You don't need to want that, but we're just not the right fit for you because that's what we want. And being okay with that. It's such a strange thing. But being able to get into this industry and grow it, you can uncover a lot of different opportunities when you start having those relationships in that network. And it does get a lot of fun. When you're, I think, earlier into it, it's just really easy to say yes to maybe some of the wrong things because it does you can do all kinds of stuff. But man, it's been a blast. I can't believe I've had so much fun doing this over the last couple of years. And again, no 12-year-old boy says one day I'm going to own a company of janitors.
Right.
0.6. Hey, nobody's got a poster of a janitor on the wall. But I know I should make my kids the poster would be on the wall with mop motors.
Well, I had my 11-year-old daughter in here this summer working, and she was folding rags. And towards the end of it, I was like, so what do you think? You think you're going to get into the family business or what? She's like, "No, it's not happening, Dad. I'm not doing this." Oh,
you're like, you eat this words, little girl. Oh, yeah, that's funny. I got this random question for you too.
okay.
Is the ad up at the hockey arena? And some other kid gets slammed into an iPro advertisement.
It has never left. It is still there. I mean, when something that like that and that big happens, yeah, like I own that spot. And so, my rep at the arena knows like that's Edwin's every year. He's going to renew it and it's staying there. I don't think that it's beat up pretty bad, but you can still see the website and the number, but I think it's still the original one.
It's like same way. And that's like you're like, lucky underwear for a baseball player or something. Dude, we're leaving up that advertisement. And that's my OG marketing campaign right there.
Dude,
I love it, man. How many millions does that sign made you? It's just crazy.
Right.
So that's also, and it's what you're saying that too. I remember you sharing some of your story on other podcasts, but I think that's cool too. Coming from hospitality into this space, because there's going to be some similarities from the standpoint of, and I think the way that you've chosen to do your business with iPro, the intent of taking care of the customer, but also like how they feel about how you're taking care of them. The hospitality aspect of it. It's like, hey, you want them to feel like they're appreciated, feel like they're taken care of. So I love that. So how many years were you with your friend's uncle before you parted ways and where did you start an iPro?
I think it was about 3.5, 4 years.
Okay. So a couple of years experience before you launched your own deal. When you're starting iPro, what were you, how long did it take you to get to a spot where you're, as an owner, were benefiting 6 figures a year from owning iPro? And then when you started it, did you already see that? You're like, I know I can go make $100,000 a year plus with this business.
I think in the beginning I thought that, and then once I got into it, it was harder than I thought, But yeah, I think, and I saw that question. I had my wife actually kind of run the numbers to really see, because I was kind of interested in that too. And she said it was about the 40-year mark that we were able to do that. But obviously, we're investing a lot of that money back into the business as well. So it may look that, but we're putting a lot of it back into the business to continue to grow the business. But yeah, it was about 4 years into it. But yeah, I mean, and I took a lot of what I learned from the other company into what I was doing. But the difference again is selling is selling, but the accounts are just so drastically different. Where in the Seattle area, it's like, oh man, I just got a $30,000 a month account. Like you're celebrating that, and in here it's like I just got a $1,000 a month account. Like we're high five. I'm like that's an accomplishment, but then now you see the data center, and it's like oh wow. But sometimes I just reminisce like. I wish I could kind of go back to the earlier days too, because there was a lot of stress, but it was fun getting this thing off the ground and growing this company.
I'll say to you, man, as far as that goes, like most guys probably like this, there'll be a time where we're get in shape, and we may forget that we were getting in shape, get out of shape pretty quick. But I'm recently, probably about 2 months ago, I'm 42 years old. I got an 11-year-old daughter, a 9-year-old daughter. I'm like, some punk kid's gonna want to make my daughter pretty soon, right? I'm like, I need to be physically intimidated, so they know what's up. But no, getting back in the gym and being really consistent with it and having that, it sucks sometimes, but you know that you're getting strength. And I think looking back, like in those earlier days, like yeah, it sucked, but like, man, I was gaining some muscle. Like I was really I was starting to get fit for this future that I was creating for myself. And I think I'm with you, man. It's fun. I think about it probably most often in those situations when I'm dealing with a staff member that's, like stressed about a situation. And I just remember I could go back and be like, man, I remember when I was like so scared to make certain.
Right. Yeah.
Or even sometimes criticize a cleaner, like, hey, we got to get better here. I'll just be like, losing my appetite a little bit. You never do it and then see it out now. It's like, just, those are things that I struggle with at this point. But yeah, it's fun to kind of go back mentally. That's a great times. I hated so much of it, to be honest, when I started mine, because I was, I was in the gym, getting strict. Sometimes I was probably overworking out and being upset about it. All right, this is one of my favorite questions, Edwin. So these last three are by far my favorite ones. 6-figure screw ups is what I call it. But this could be some major financial thing, totally screwed, or it could be something like, now this is just this is a story where I made a mistake and it's just dumb. But like, what are some of the mistakes that you made along the way that you kind of look back on and you either like just are thankful to God that it's over, or you can kind of laugh at yourself a little bit that, you went through that experience?
Yeah. I mean, along the way, there's a lot of financial mistakes, purchasing things I didn't need, to hiring people that I didn't need and paying them a ridiculous salary. But I think with me, the biggest mistake that I made is, right now we've got these podcasts you can listen to. You got YouTube that you can get information off of. Is just, and I look at my sales guys, it's like once they get their first sale, it's almost like a cockiness that gets into you. It's like, oh, I'm going to go get that next sale. That's easy. That's no problem. And I think it was almost the same kind of thing with me. You get your first couple of accounts and it's like, this is easy. And then you keep doing it. But then as I added people, the biggest thing for me, the biggest mistake that I had was not being able to let go of the work that I should be letting the other people do. And it was holding me back from being able to do other stuff that I should be doing. And so it's like I hired these people specifically to do this, but yet I'm doing their job for them. It's not that they don't want to do it. It's because I'm not letting them do their job. And so I was getting in the way of people that I was hiring, and it was hindering the growth. We were kind of stalemate for a little bit. And then as soon as I realized that and I kind of backed off a little bit, then that needle started to go back up again. And so it's just, the biggest mistake is just myself getting in my way of growing the company.
Man, it's so funny because mine's like, like that scenario you just painted for us. Mine is typically been the opposite. Like I hire somebody, I don't want to see them elevate. They're not ready. They're not qualified. And I'm like, here's the keys, man. Just drive it, there's so many of them are also like, but I think it's common for all of us. I mean, probably more common on your side. I think my wife, she's involved in our company. Like that's what her thing. Like, hey, we got to let them fail. But I probably let them fail too much. That's my experience. But things fall apart a little bit too much. I'm over here like, well, you're like, well, we put somebody in a position you didn't train them to succeed in. Like what?
But that's how we learned, right? We failed and then we learned from that and we knew we're not going to make that mistake again, but we got to be able to let it go and let them do that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man. 100%. That's a great one, man. I appreciate you sharing that one because I think that what I've seen more often it's been that piece of it where people they're trying to grow, but they won't let go of the work. I think Michael Gerber even this gives the perfect example. You're right. It's like, look, if they can do it at 80% of the level, you could do it. You need to let it go. You're gonna be able to sustain that. But God,
Right.
we're like, I mean, I won't release a podcast episode half the time. Everyone's, I want to be perfect. I'm saying it's like, hey, be perfect. Just put it out.
Right.
Quit making a big deal about it. All right, six figure secrets. What are some lessons that you learned that helped you get to six figures personal income for your business? And honestly, man, your business is a tremendously successful commercial cleaning company. And so I don't want to limit you by that particular question. What are some of the lessons you learned along the way that you feel like have really empowered you and your family and your company to be successful in this industry?
Yeah. Well, it kind of circles back to me getting in my own way. Knowledge is power, and by knowledge, I mean advice. And if you don't ask for advice, if you don't ask for help, you may not be able to get yourself or even your business to the next level. And I think with me, once I realized that, okay, I'm going to ask for help because I think I know how to do this, but I'm pretty sure somebody else has a better understanding of it. So I went and found that help. And then it was like, okay, I'm building a team. I'm starting to build a culture. This is not my forte. I don't know what to do. Okay, let me find somebody that specializes in leadership and coaching. And let's bring this person in and let them do that work and do this and that. And so those kind of things have helped take us to another level. But it's just getting that knowledge by asking for advice and asking for the help. Because if you don't ask, you'll never know. Right. And so this person could have a wealth of knowledge and stuff that's going to help you. And if you don't ask them, you won't know.
Man, I love that too. I think there's a piece of that. You didn't say these words, but it's in there. A lot of times we don't want to ask for help because we think we're supposed to know it all. Or we think that we do maybe know more than we do. I think there's like a big piece of this and where it is recognizing like you're probably going to be really good in certain areas of your company, and roll with who you are, and not necessarily you should get help. But like, hey, lean into that. But you're probably some things that you suck at, and the quicker you can be like, I really suck in this area, and I think I'm gonna suck. Like, get help there. I mean, you might be able to bring somebody else in. So you're saying too, bringing like, hey, I'm coaching, development some leadership within my team. Not that you couldn't do it, you're a leader, but maybe outsourcing some of that or bringing in somebody that's giving it there. Man, that's great. I think that's something that I think for me, man, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago. I've always done all these personality assessments and stuff. I did one and it just said something in a different way where I was like, oh, okay, I'm always going to suck in these things. Like there was just certain areas where I was like, God, I got to get myself to that. And because I couldn't be theoretically, because like I wasn't wired to be, so I could do that, but it's not my natural wiring, And I just beat myself up to get better. And finally I was like, no, I'm just probably going to suck there or be less than adequate. And I should probably just get some help. And it was like life changing, like, oh no.
Yeah. It's a huge difference.
Yeah. Like there's other people that are good at that and it's easy for them to be good at that. Just like you're good at this, it's easy for you to be good at this. Like, so give somebody else the opportunity. But so many of us mystics, we're afraid to be vulnerable enough to say, hey, I'm not good here. Or, hey, I need some help. And like, here's this back.
Well, and I did a thing. I used to do it in the hospitality industry. Is I'll do a weekly manager meeting, and obviously we're in different offices. So the only way it's tough to get everybody in the same room on the same day, right? So Zoom, pandemic hit, everybody's using technology, so we use Zoom for our manager meetings. And the beauty of it is everybody can see everybody, everybody's interacting with everybody. The first couple of times it's just me talking the whole time, and I'm just thinking afterwards, like, are they really listening to me? Am I just boring them to death with all this information? So I thought, okay, let's take it a step further. Okay, this manager and that manager, you guys are going to present to the group. You're going to talk about, safety issues. You're going to present to the group about slip and falls, and you're going to talk to us on how to approach an unruly employee. And so everybody was timid in the beginning, but what's happened over the months and months of doing this is they've opened up more. They're actually collaborating with each other. So one person in Oregon might call somebody in Washington. It's like, hey, I know I'm doing this thing, but I know you're better at it than me. Can you give me some tips? And then it went from them talking to them doing PowerPoint presentations to them putting together Canva presentations for everybody. And then I thought, oh man, this is great. Everybody's getting into it. Let's even go even a step further. And so we brought in people, industry experts, to come speak to the group for 15 or 20 minutes. I give them a topic, they talk about it, and then they do a Q&A session with the group. And then it's not just industry experts, but it's my old hotel general manager who talked to us about leadership, and just other business owners and things like that. So we're getting different perspectives, and the difference in the management team, their management style, how they lead, how they're talking to the employees has changed dramatically. And that has helped with the company culture for us. And so, a piece of advice for anybody that's listening is just invest in your employees and think outside the box a little bit, and be a little different at times, because this was a little bit different, when we tried it and it worked, and it's benefited us greatly.
I love that too. So, I mean, you put people a little bit of pressure on some of your team to like, hey, just present something to us, but then get down to their comfort zone and doing something they're capable of doing has led to a lot of collaboration. It sounds like it's made your entire company dramatically better.
Yeah. And it's not to embarrass them. But a lot of people, it's not in their wheelhouse. And so we're trying to get them to take a step forward to get to that next step within the company. And now they're more than willing to do it. And even the new managers that come on, all the other managers are telling them, just get ready. You're going to do your first presentation next week. We're all going to be listening, and so, but it's fun. It's fun and it's engaging. And that's a big piece of it.
You're like making them run the personal and professional development gauntlet. All right, dude, you're doing your presentation next week. We're going to kill you.
Right.
Be awesome. All right, man. Final question. Edwin, is 6-figure strategies. If you were to start over today, brand new commercial cleaning company, and you wanted to get to 6 figures of personal income relatively quick, what type of thing would you focus on to build that?
I would listen to your podcast first, so I could get from industry experts, right? No, but that's the thing. Again, back to what I said before, the podcast, all the YouTube videos that you can get on, all the different consultants, all the people that have the knowledge in this industry, that if I came into it now, I would do my research and say, okay, study your area. What's your market like? What's a niche account that you could find? What is there a lot of in your areas? And so for me, it's data centers. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to go find the industry experts for data centers so I can get some knowledge. And then I'm going to learn this and learn that before I go attempt to do that. And then that's what I'm going to go after. Or if it's healthcare, or if it's, industrial. But I think if I could do it all over again, knowing what I know now, I think I would take that and go after the advice and the knowledge and pick that niche and then go right for it.
Man, that's so good too, because I think one of the things is I'm in all these like Facebook groups. And so I go there to see when there's a question that's asked that I feel like I can contribute something valuable to. But in the process of watching, what goes on in these Facebook groups, there's a ton of like bad information. And I'm like, man, there's actually at this point in time, so many good places to go get information. There's people that like yourself that are doing some like consulting. There are podcasts that are out there now. Like, there's just so many good places to go. And some of it's going to be for free. And, hey, guess what? Some of it might have to pay for it. But dear God, how much more like value will you get out of something? Most of the time, you're not paying that much. But the wasted time is like going through, filtering out all the bad, and you don't know when you're new if it's good information or bad information. But you said something there that was key, in my opinion, is that a lot of people think their way of building the business is like the way. It was like, well, no, it's for each of us based on our personality or upbringing and what our desires are. There may be some differences that we're going to bring to it. If you live in Seattle, your business model may be a little different than if you live in, a town of 50,000. Like, just what's available to you, unless you want to drive 9 hours. And so I think a lot of people miss out on that. So it's the same for us. We looked at our environment like, this is what, like, we like cleaning banks because we like dealing with customer service oriented individuals. And we have 2 hospitals in our town. We're still a small town, 130,000 maybe. But there's 2 hospitals here, which means that there's 1,000 doctor's offices. We're like, why don't we just clean banks and doctor's offices? Hire people that work full time to do it part time on the side. Like, that's worked really well for us. But a lot of people would never subscribe to that. But that's not the way to do it. It's like, it's not the way to do it. It's a way to do it. And if you go get the knowledge from different people, like, if you want to learn how to clean data centers, don't ask me. I don't know. But here you are, man. So it's awesome.
Right.
I want to wrap up with this. I'm going to ask you 2 questions here. And one is just inviting you to speak a little bit about what you're doing. Because I found you're doing some stuff on consulting or coaching within the industry. So I want you to talk about that, is to tell us what you're doing and who's like kind of ideal for that. And which also felt like people think like, hey, you're crazy. Like, you do some of the same, you do coaching and stuff. Why don't you do that? I'm like, because I can't help everybody. Like, I can only help people that want to do something similar to what I've done. And there's people doing it in different ways. But the last part of that is, one or two books. You're like, these are books that you guys, if you haven't read it don't have to be about cleaning at all. It's just like, hey, y'all, these are two books that will help you out in your journey with developing a company and developing your own six-figure income and beyond. So tell us a little bit about, two books, and then tell us a little bit about what you're doing in the coaching or consulting space within Gen.
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the books. I do a lot of reading. I wouldn't say that I read a lot of books itself. It's more online or listening, podcasts and things like that in the car because I get a lot of drive time. But I think one book that stuck out to me quite a bit and was Your Next 5 Moves. I don't know if you've read that. What's his name? Patrick Bet David or David Bet, whatever his name is. But I really got into that book and just kind of thinking about your next moves and not getting too far ahead of yourself. Finish your first move before you move on to the next move, and so on and so forth. And so that one I've listened to, and I've actually shared that with other people within my circle of friends that I have, and everybody seems to enjoy that book and get something out of it. So that one I really enjoy. On the consulting side of things, I never thought I was going to get into consulting. I think it was a podcast that I did. Put my information out at the end of it, and somebody actually reached out to me and said, "Hey, you were talking about bidding. I've got this huge project. I just don't know what to do. Can you help me?" Heck yeah, let me help you. That's what we're in. We're here to help each other, and so help them do it. And then followed along that I got a few other emails from some other people, and I thought, well, maybe I'll put up a website and just see, and I can put some information on there, and it spiraled even more. And so, I was talking just the other day, like I helped a guy out in Florida get a $90,000 a month account, and it took us probably a good 3-4 weeks, a solid month of really on the phone and back and forth emails to get this, and I mean, a huge accomplishment for him. He called me, sent me a thank you card and everything, was just ecstatic, that he got it. And I'm thinking in my head, man, that was a $90,000 account I just helped this guy get. And so, just been helping smaller businesses, startup businesses, smaller businesses. Again, I'm from a rural area, so that's what I sell it. I'm from a small area, so my tactics are going to be different than the big metro city. So if you're in a smaller area, I can definitely help you with your marketing, how to bid, how to go after your niche market and things like that. And so I have a lot of that. And so I've got clients, all throughout the US in small cities, and that's what they're doing. A lot of them, are cleaners that get into the game. They were good cleaners. I don't know how to run a business. They didn't think that far ahead, and so like, okay, well, let's start with, your business name. Let's start with getting you set up, doing this and that. And so those are the things that we're working on. And, I help them get their first couple of accounts. And then they kind of move on from there. And then they just contact me when they need me and they need help with things. So it to me, it's rewarding because I wish I had that in the beginning and I didn't. And so to be able to do that and help other businesses and watch those businesses start to grow, I mean, it's just a feel good for me. It's good to see it.
Well, that's amazing too, because how much you're trying to learn. There's so much to learn when you're starting a business. It's overwhelming. And I have to have a guide through that process. Like, hey, do this, do like good night. Like, what a heck.
Yeah.
And the difference you're making, the stress of doing all that stuff. Like, so I think that's amazing, man. So thanks for sharing about that. I know that people can find you on LinkedIn. You put out great content on LinkedIn that will help anybody in business, but definitely if they're in the commercial cleaning space. But what are the other best ways for somebody that, the listener, Edwin, that's like, I need what he's talking about, that wants to reach out? What's the best ways for them to connect, follow you, and kind of move forward in a relationship with you?
Yeah, I mean, iPro itself, our website is worryfree.cleaning. So there's no .com, it's just worryfree.cleaning. On the consulting side, it's blueprintjanitorial.com. And so that's for the consulting side. So those two places, along with LinkedIn, and then, I'm on all the socials. It's kind of crazy. I was talking to somebody the other day for the consulting side, just for fun. I started a TikTok, and I'm blown away with how much business I get just from TikTok and just dumb videos that you put out there. And all of a sudden people are emailing and calling, and like, oh, wow, this is another market that I've never tried before.
It's so crazy. There's so many megaphons for us to use on social media these days.
Right. Yeah.
We're still silly doing so. But yeah, you're right. You'll fall on some listening ears sometimes that need your support. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Edwin, man, I appreciate you being on the Six Figure Cleaner podcast, dude. I know for me personally, I got lots of value from what you had to share with us today. I know the listeners have as well. So we appreciate your investment in us today. But honestly, too, man, again, you lead from the front. You're putting out great content that helps people on social media. That's just for free. Anybody wants to follow you, so get something from LinkedIn. So thanks so much for what you're doing in the industry. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on the show, and I love the show. I mean, what you're doing is great.
Thanks, brother.